so that you can see exactly what you are inflicting upon the UN Charter with this destructive vote. This is you are shredding the UN Charter with your own hands. Yes, that's what you're doing, shredding the UN Charter. Shame on you. Thank you, Mr. President.
This is my video update on this Saturday, midday, May the 11th. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with the UN General Assembly vote to admit Palestine as a full UN member. And the vote was 143 yes, 25 abstained, and 9 countries voted no. So these are the countries that voted no to Palestine becoming a full member of the United Nations. The countries are Argentina, Czechia, Hungary, Israel, Micronesia, Papua New Guinea, the United States, Nauru, and Palau. Those are the countries that voted no to Palestine becoming a member of the United Nations. So now the vote goes to the UN Security Council, and the UN Security Council will have to vote unanimously in order for Palestine to officially be a member of the United Nations, and this is not going to happen. The United States has already come out and said that they will vote no in the Security Council for Palestine to become a UN member state. But what has happened is that Palestine was at an observer level in the General Assembly, and because of the vote in the General Assembly, it will get some new rights and some new privileges, but this will just be at the UN General Assembly level. It's not going to be admitted as a full member. And when it does go to the Security Council, the United States will vote no. So that is the situation with the vote in the United Nations. During the UN General Assembly vote, the Israeli ambassador to the UN, he got up on stage at the UN and he took out a UN charter and a mini paper shredder, and he shredded the UN charter in front of the General Assembly. So we did have some theatrics at the UN General Assembly vote. So that is the situation in the UN and what is going on in Israel. And with the incursion into Rafah, well, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, he said that Israel will fight with its fingernail as it will defy the U.S. ultimatum. The Prime Minister's pledge comes after President Biden warned the IDF against a major offensive in the Gazan city of Rafah. Israel will continue its military campaign against Hamas in Gaza, regardless of disapproval from its key allies, Prime Minister Netanyahu has said. His remarks came shortly after U.S. President Joe Biden warned the Israeli leadership that any large-scale operation in Rafah would mean a halt in the supply of key defense equipment. So the narrative is that Biden has put down his red line to Netanyahu, which is you cannot enter the city limits of Rafah. You can stay on the outskirts, according to Biden's interview with Aaron Burnett the other day on CNN, but you can't enter into Rafah. If you enter into Rafah, then maybe, perhaps, probably, the Biden White House will stop delivery of some weapons to Israel. That is the red line that Biden has put down to Netanyahu. And Netanyahu, understanding that Biden is speaking nonsense and is bluffing, he has said that he will ignore these fictitious red lines put down by Biden and that he will enter Rafah. Does this thing even work? I don't know. I don't think so. But it's €1. So CNN, they ran an article with the title, Biden admin says it's reasonable to assess Israel used American weapons in ways inconsistent with international law. Right. The U.S., the Biden White House, had no idea that the weapons that it was sending to Israel could be used to bomb Gaza in ways that are inconsistent with international law. They had no idea. This is all one shocking surprise to the Biden White House. The Biden White House, they thought that all the weapons that they were sending to Israel to be used in Gaza were going to deliver, I don't know. I don't even know. They thought that these weapons were going to deliver flowers or something like that. How was the Biden White House to know that these weapons were going to be used in ways that could be inconsistent with international law? There's no way that the Biden White House is going to stop delivery of weapons to Israel. It's not going to happen. This article from CNN, the interview that Biden gave to Aaron Burnett, the red lines that he was talking about, these pretend red lines, it's all about the election. It's all about U.S. domestic politics, and the Democrats and the Biden White House is very concerned about the loss of support for the 2024 elections because of Biden's policies in Gaza and in support of Israel and Netanyahu. Weapons will continue to flow to Israel. The only thing that Israel may be short of with regards from the United States, with regards to the United States, the only weapon deliveries that Israel may not get in abundance is going to be artillery. And the reason that artillery may not go to Israel is not because Biden is putting down some red lines. It's because the United States is running low on artillery. That's my opinion. And whatever artillery they do have, the Biden White House would like to prioritize that to Project Ukraine. So that is why when the Biden White House talks about artillery shells not being sent to Netanyahu because Netanyahu may cross some pretend fictitious red line, what the Biden White House is not saying, and this is just my opinion, what the Biden White House is not saying is that the artillery shells, they're running low on artillery shells and they would like to prioritize artillery to Project Ukraine, and that's the truth of what's going on with artillery being delivered to Israel. It has nothing to do with crossing any red lines. All the other weapons are going to be sent to Israel. Biden, the Biden White House, the U.S. government, the Pentagon, they're going to make sure that Israel has all the weapons that it needs for an incursion into Rafah. Anyway, that is an update on the UN. That is an update on what is happening in Israel. That is an update on Biden's pretend red lines. And it is extremely windy. I don't know how this audio is going to turn out. Let's make our way over to a place that is not so windy. And let's talk about an offensive that Elensky says is taking place, and that is the Russian great counteroffensive, the Russian super-duper counteroffensive in Kharkov. This is according to Elensky. Russia has launched a counteroffensive into Kharkov. The Biden White House, Mr. Kirby, He has also said that the U.S. believes that Russia may have launched an offensive into Kharkov, or is preparing to launch a big offensive in order to take Kharkov. According to Reuters, Russia advances in Ukraine's Kharkov region in a push to create a buffer zone, a Kiev source says. So the possible Russian offensive in Kharkov could be about creating a buffer zone. I have read reports which claim that the Russians have already captured 11 villages. I've heard other reports claiming that the Russians have captured 8 villages. And I've read other reports which claim that the Russians have not fully captured all of these villages in the Kharkov region. So, not sure exactly what is going on. I say we give it a couple of days and we'll get to the truth of the situation. But there are reports saying that the Russians are looking to create a 10-kilometer long buffer zone in the Kharkov region. There are other analysts who are saying that what the Russians are doing is that they are stretching the front line, and what they're really doing in Kharkov is they're forcing the Ukraine military to allocate resources in the Kharkov direction, which will then allow the Russians to further advance in the Donetsk direction, mainly towards Chasiv Yar, which is the number one priority at this moment for the Russian military. And you also have the belief from the Ukraine commander of, I believe, the ground forces, Mr. Palvyuk. One second. What is this guy's title? Yes, he is the commander of the ground forces. He believes, according to an interview that he gave with the Economist, that Russia is focused on Donetsk and Lugansk, but it is going to launch an offensive in the Kharkov direction with the ultimate goal, according to Palvyuk, of going after Kiev. So he believes that Kiev is the ultimate target in this Russia super duper spring counter to the counter of the offensive. This is according to the commander of the ground forces. Russia has not abandoned the idea of capturing Kiev. The critical phase of the war will come in the next 2 months. The commander of the ground forces, in an interview with The Economist, Palvyuk believes that the Russian armed forces will focus on the Lugansk and Donetsk region, but intelligence suggests that the Russian army will soon strengthen its defenses, attacking the northeastern regions of Kharkov and Sumy. Palvyuk, in this interview with The Economist, he also said that Chasiv Yar is an ordinary city settlement. Its loss would not be of decisive importance. Yeah, right. Yeah, right, Commander Palvyuk. Who are you trying to kid? Who are you trying to fool? Chasiv Yar is, from what I understand, listening to Alexander's analysis of the situation, Chasiv Yar is one of the final well-fortified cities in the Donbass region. And once the Russians break through Chasiv Yar and capture Chasiv Yar, that's pretty much it as far as well-fortified positions for the Ukraine military. Bakhmut, Avdiivka, and Chasiv Yar. And that's pretty much it. So they're trying, I think with this statement, the Ukraine military, they're trying to prepare their narrative, prepare the population for the fall of Chasiv Yar. We heard the same things about Bakhmut and Avdiivka. Bakhmut is really not that strategic of a city. Avdiivka is really not that strategic of a city. And so now we're hearing Chasiv Yar is really not that strategic of a town, of a village. They always say the same thing right before the area is about to fall. Now, when will Chasiv Yar be captured by the Russian military? I don't know. I think there's still a lot of fighting that needs to take place. But one thing is a certainty: when Russia focuses on capturing a region, it inevitably captures that region. So that was the interview from Palyuk in The Economist. What is going on in Kharkov? Let's give it a couple of days, like I said, and we'll find out if this is really a big counteroffensive. It doesn't seem like this is a big counteroffensive. That's not what this looks like. It does look like Russia is going to capture some villages in the Kharkov region, probably to provide a bit of a buffer zone, but I think ultimately what this is about is stretching the Ukraine military forces across the front line. So Kirby, he said in a statement yesterday that the U.S. will be providing $400 million in a military aid package to Ukraine. And Kirby said that this $400 million, this latest military aid package, will help Ukraine defend against the Russian military in this Kharkov offensive. Here is what Kirby said. White House National Security Council spokesman John Kirby told reporters later in the day that Washington is concerned that Moscow may be preparing a major offensive on Ukraine's second most populous city. It is certainly possible that the Russians are setting themselves up for a larger assault on Kharkov, Kirby said at a virtual press briefing. You're not going to do that if you're not also thinking about some other larger assault directly on the city. The U.S. is sending another $400 million worth of weapons to help Kiev hold off Moscow's possible push on Kharkov. So that's the statement from the White House National Security Advisor to the Biden administration for national security, or whatever his title is, John Kirby. $400 million in military aid to Ukraine. I think the package includes Patriot missiles as well. So Elensky is going to get his Patriot missiles that he's been asking for over the last 6 months that are in short supply. And we have a Ukraine justice minister who said the other day that the $3 billion from, I believe from the European Union is what he's talking about. The $3 billion asset package is almost nothing. This is what Ukraine Justice Minister Malyuska said. Ukraine needs hundreds of billions of euros to defeat Russia. If we are talking about the needs of Ukraine, then 3 billion euros is almost nothing. Geez, if 3 billion euros is nothing, what's he going to say about 400 million? Man, it's never enough. It's never, ever going to be enough. So let's get out of the wind. Let's walk through the marina here in Ayanapa. The wind is calming down now. All right, so since we are on the topic of the European Union and the $3 billion going to Ukraine, for which the justice minister is very upset, that is not enough, he says. The world is not enough. Let's talk about the EU agreeing to a security pact for Ukraine, a security agreement for Ukraine. That's right, the EU is going to provide security to the Elensky regime. The European Union has agreed on a draft agreement on security guarantees for Kiev, which does not foresee the direct participation of EU soldiers in hostilities against Russia, according to the German edition Welt. So the EU is going to provide security for Kiev, but no EU soldiers fighting the Russians. All right. Not sure exactly what kind of security guarantee this is, but all right. Money, more money to Kiev, to the Elensky regime, which will go into the washing machine and find its way back to Brussels, I assume. I think that's the security pact that we're talking about. So I'm waiting for Ursula to make a speech about this security agreement, the security guarantee that the European Union will be providing Ukraine. The European Union has decided to provide Ukraine with a security alliance, a security agreement. We will make sure that Russia will end up in tatters. We will provide weapons that will be able to locate Putin's washing machines. And when those washing machines are in spin cycle, when those washing machines go into spin cycle, our new EU weapons will make sure that they destroy the washing machines that fund Putin's war machine. And Russia will be in tatters. Tatters, I tell you, tatters. So Germany has decided to hand over its army to NATO. This is what Pistorius, the defense minister, said in a speech the other day. He said that the security of our allies is our security. Therefore, by next year, the majority of the Bundeswehr will be placed under NATO command. Keep the Russians out, keep the Americans in, and keep the Germans down. That is the mission of NATO, and you have to admit, it's working. If there's one thing that has worked with Project Ukraine, it's that Germany has definitely been kept down. That's for sure. Germany doesn't control its currency, doesn't control its financial system, doesn't control its military. Soon it won't even control its military. Doesn't control its energy interests. Had its pipeline blown up by Gilligan and the skipper, and Zaluzhny, who's now ambassador to the UK. According to the BBC and Reuters and the Associated Press, Zaluzhny might have been the mastermind behind the Nord Stream attack, but now he's ambassador to the UK. And what exactly does Germany control? What exactly qualifies Germany to be considered a sovereign nation? If you don't control your currency, your financial system, and if you don't control your military, what exactly do you control? Okay. So that's Germany. That's Pistorius. let's get talking now to what I consider to be the most interesting interview that we've had in a while, and that is the interview of one-time Boris Johnson aide Dominique Cummings. He used to be the guy that was advising Boris Johnson. Many people thought that he was the brains behind Bojo, and then they got into a fight. And Dominique Cummings, he got pretty based, pretty based, I have to say. And he gave an interview to newspaper. And the stuff that Dominique Cummings said, pretty incredible stuff. Pretty incredible stuff. Let me just read you exactly what he said in this interview, and I'm taking this from Politico. The title from Politico is Dominique Cummings, Zelensky's No Churchill and Ukraine's corrupt. Former Brexit campaign chief says the West is getting effed by supporting Ukraine. Wow. Just the title says it all. Wow. Elensky is no Churchill, and the West is getting effed by supporting Ukraine. Boy, there's going to be a lot of people in the UK establishment that are going to be very upset with Dominique Cummings. Boris Johnson's former top advisor, Dominique Cummings, launched a sweary attack on Western support for Ukraine Thursday in an interview with newspaper. Cummings, who led Britain's Vote Leave Brexit campaign and spectacularly fell out with Johnson in 2020, declared that the West should have never got into the whole stupid situation and claimed sanctions against Russia have had a greater impact on European politics than in Moscow. This is not a replay of 1940 with Zelensky as the Churchillian underdog, he said. This whole Ukrainian corrupt mafia state has basically conned us all, and we're all going to get effed as a consequence. We are getting effed right now, right? We are getting effed now, right? In a follow-up tweet, Cummings later branded Zelensky a Potemkin leader, but denied he'd called him a pumpkin, as originally quoted in the interview. He argued that the war would only strengthen the relationship between Russia and China, saying Western nations pushed Russia into an alliance with the world's biggest manufacturing power. What lesson have we taught him? In reference to Putin. The lesson we've taught Putin is that we're a bunch of total effing jokers, Cummings asserted, saying the war had broadcast it to the entire world. What a bunch of clowns we are. Yep. I'll add on to Cummings' clown statement that it's giving me this whole Project Ukraine has given me a segment in these videos known as Clown World, Mr. Cummings. So yeah, the collective West has broadcast to the entire world what a bunch of clowns they are. Yeah, absolutely. You're spot on, my man. You are spot on. I mean, what can I say? What can I say to these statements from Cummings? He said that he called Zelensky a Potemkin leader, not a pumpkin. Not a pumpkin leader. Elensky, the pumpkin leader. Oh my God. Boy, is Elensky going to be upset with this interview from Cummings. From Dominique. Boy, Podolyak. What is this from this Dominique guy? What he say here? I'm no Churchill. My script that I have says I'm Churchill. If I'm not Churchill, who's Churchill? Podolyak. I play Churchill. No one else plays Churchill. Who's this Dominique guy? Yeah, Elensky's going to be upset about this. Even the Churchill narrative of Elensky has now been torn down, torn to shreds by Dominique Cummings. Elensky's in trouble when he loses the protection of Churchill, of this Churchill stature that the collective West has given him. And you know, it's not looking good for the man in the green sweatshirt. Anyway, let's get to some clown worlds. One more news story. The U.S. to finalize details of orderly troop withdrawal from Niger in the coming days, an official says. So it does look like the U.S. military is going to be leaving Niger. Big news. Very big news. So let's do a clown world and wrap this video up. How am I doing on time? Okay, we're good. We're pretty good on time. Biden was at a fundraiser in California, and according to the Daily Mail, Biden makes another gaffe as he calls Kim Jong-un the president of South Korea. Biden has no idea what's going on, man. He has no idea what's going on. Oh, boy. He probably does believe that Kim Jong-un is the president of South Korea. Who knows? Who knows? Anyway, quick clown world for today. I'll end the video there. Let me show you the big anchor here in Ayanapa, the Duran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and Twitter, X, and go to the Duran shop. Pick up some limited edition merch. The link is in the description box down below. Take care.